All right, there we go. God, sorry about that. What I was trying to say um, is I'm really sorry I start late every stream, but I appreciate you guys' patience, and I'm so glad so many of you show up all the time, and I really appreciate that. I see Bob and Nature and Peter and Dave and David Crooks, awesome. I'm Tech Challenge, Randy. Yeah, it's so true. But what I was trying to say was, I was holding up this wire. I'm using the Olympus webcam software plugged into my EM1 Mark II, and as you can see, it's the frame rate's a little different, right? I'm not sure if it's the frame rate's too fast or too slow, and also it's 720p. It's not a full 1080 signal. The other thing I realized is that you can't have at least with the M1 Mark II, there's no like full-time autofocus. I didn't realize that. Even though I put the camera in movie mode, you know, it's supposed to autofocus like it does when I'm plugged up to the HDMI. But it doesn't do that. It's like in photo program mode, but it outputs a 720p signal and a normal 16:9, but there's no autofocus. So that's something new. I thought I'd just try the webcam software today instead of my normal HDMI setup, just to see how it goes. But it seems fine. Other than, is there still no sound? Are you guys kidding me? You're joking, right? Because I'm seeing plenty of bars on my screen. But yeah, so there's no autofocus, right? So if I put my hand up here, it doesn't focus on my hand. And it's in program mode, so white balance and everything else is on auto right now. I suppose I could change that. I look a little weird. Anyhow, okay, thanks. Sound is good now. He's trolling me. But yeah, it's not bad. I mean, I guess, and I'm at f2, right? So, you know, if I wasn't like using a green screen, there might be some blurry background too. I don't know. I really don't need to be at f2, but you know, I want to make sure. Normally, I want plenty of light for the autofocus, right? Because that's when it works best, is when there's lots of light. But like if I turn off this light and this light, what happens? It doesn't matter. Oh, I could turn this one off too. So now I'm energy efficient, but let's see what happens to the signal. Is there any delay? Is there any lip syncing delay? I wonder. This is just one light. Let me turn them all back on. I'm using you guys as guinea pigs. I'm sorry. But how else am I going to test this unless I do it like in real life, right? But you know, when I add all the lighting in, right, I get little speculars in my eyes, and I don't know if the stuff is going, but anyway, so yeah, welcome to my live stream. For those of you that are new here, I've gotten just a little bit maybe too comfortable with, you know, all the regulars coming in every week, which I greatly appreciate. But I always welcome, you know, new viewers to come in and watch the live stream, and generally I try to answer any questions about Olympus cameras or workspace or photography in general, you know, drawing on my limited experience. I've only been shooting really for almost 8 years now, and only professionally for about the last 3 or 4 years, and that's only in architectural photography. I'm using the 12mm f2 lens. Lip syncing was slightly worse with the lights off, so there is some, so the frame rate must, I don't know what, the frame rate must slow down automatically, right? The read sensor, the read, where's my vocabulary today? But the you know, the sensor has like a frame rate too, right, that it reads. You know, it can go down to as low as like 4 or 5 frames per second, like the scan lines on the sensor, all the way up to about 120. So it must be automatically adjusting. Either that, if it's not the sensor, then it's adjusting the shutter speed. The shutter speed wouldn't go below 24 frames per second, but I don't know what it does when you're using webcam software, right? I'll have to experiment a little bit. If anybody cares, I don't know if anybody, you know, because you can get one of these like web capture. Where is mine? I bought like 3 of these little $20 HDMI capture devices. Oh, there's no autofocus. and oh, look at that. I'm in this is my left arm, but it looks like I'm in reverse. I wonder. Yeah, readout speed. So what I have to do, gosh, now I have to reverse the video. I wonder where that's in. Transform, flip, 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 flip horizontal. Okay, so this is my right arm. That look right? Yeah. All right, so that's another thing we know now, right, about the OMD capture software, is it reverses, everything is backwards. What if I flip the screen out? Let's see. No, nothing happened, right? Because when I flip the screen out, when I'm using the HDMI, the screen flips on this on the software, in the streaming software. So you held it upside down. Okay. All right. Wow, you know, 2020, they need to cancel 2020. I tell you, I can't wait for the new year. I'm so done with 2020. You know, if you guys are my regulars, you know, I went to it was my dad's funeral day before yesterday, which was really nice, and I put a video up of it. But you know, I don't want to bring everybody down on that, but I wanted to talk about the video on the EM1 Mark III as well. Because I used my EM1 Mark III with the 12 to 40 Pro, and just handheld. And it was really amazing, right? Oh no, cancel culture. I didn't mean that. If we're going to cancel anything, just cancel 2020. Everything else can stay. I don't want to cancel nothing. Speaking of canceling, and I'll come back to the camera. Robin Wong posted a video this morning, which, you know, I don't normally watch things right away because, you know, I don't know, I'm just weird. But he posted a video about how they canceled like video filming in Malaysia, and you have to get a license that costs like 50,000 ringgits, which was what, 12,000 US dollars or some ridiculous thing. And so I reached out to him, right, obviously. And from the time he published the video to the time I contacted him a few hours later, the government over there apparently reversed their decision. They made a complete U-turn and are going to, well, I don't know exactly what that means, but he said he's going to be able to continue making YouTube videos. But keep an eye on his channel. Watch his channel. He said he's going to post an update soon about what's going on and why he thinks he'll be able to continue. So that is excellent news. In the UK, the shirt pocket is always on the left. Really? Are you in the UK, Lysippus? So it is. Yeah, this is on my left, my pocket. Am I backwards? Like, do I not know left from right? I'm always. So if my right hand is up, does this look like the right hand on the screen? Well, whatever it is, we're good. What was I talking? Oh yeah, Robin. So watch for Robin Wong's update video coming out soon. He's really tired because he said he had just got done doing a live stream with Olympus in Malaysia, and he's gonna go to bed, which is good. He's busy, but I think I'm really happy to hear that he's gonna continue, because honestly, it's kind of like, I shouldn't say this, but I rely on them a lot to pick up the slack when I'm not making like tutorials and things, right? You can always count on Robin and Peter and Jimmy and Joe Edelman, right? He live streams a lot and occasionally does tutorials lately, but I know Peter, Robin, and Jimmy, they're pretty regular and consistent with uploading their videos and posting tutorials, and when I see them, I'm like really happy that they're doing that for the community. And it takes a little pressure off me sometimes. So I'm still flipped. My shirt pocket is on the left. Yeah, this is my left. Yeah, this is my left. My watch is on my left. I'm wearing my Wanger. What a, like an awkward name, like in, well, anyway, Wenger or Wanger Swiss watch. Man, it's so accurate. I mean, quartz watches are always accurate, but this one is particularly good. Oh, Derek. Yeah, I don't watch much of Derek. I should. Everyone says I should go watch Derek Frost or Derek Forrest or something. I've seen a few of his videos. He takes a little getting used to, right? He's very different than a lot of the, a lot of YouTubers, right? But his content is solid. He definitely has a different style and delivers a lot of good information, but it's very different. Who has the oldest digital camera here? Man, I'd say 1997. I might go further back than that on my end. Let me think. I have a Fuji. I have the box for it here, but the camera is downstairs. This is my second oldest digital camera. Everything's backwards. Why? Why? That's not right. Let me flip it again. All right, golly. So it was fine the first time. I don't know why. Anyway, I don't know what the date on this is though. There's some things on here. Anybody still have their box for their digital camera? Let me see. Look, still got the cable. Never even unhooked it or anything. All these cables and crap. Oh, look at the manual. Typical guy. I never even took the manual out of the bag. So I didn't send the warranty card in. I don't know what the date is. Somebody Google it. I have no idea. Even if I could find it, I wouldn't be able to read it without my glasses anyway. Oh, that's my oldest digital camera. Time to clear out. Oh my God. I know, right? Oh, I don't know why I keep the boxes anymore, because I'm never going to sell it. I always think, I need to save the box, so when I go to trade it in, I'll do, maybe I'll get a couple more dollars for it because it looks more well kept, but 1999 says DP review. Okay. I have one other camera that's a little bit older than that one. It's the MX, it's the MX 2300, I think. They might have come out at the same time, but this one I bought after I bought that first one. I still got the box for that one too. Well, I won't bore you guys with the box, but I still got the box for that. Um, the Olympus C4040. God, that rings a bell. That's probably one of those point and shoots, right? Oh. And somebody was asking, I'm just drinking like a blended tea today. I got like a peppermint and green tea and black tea and something else. I just mix all the tea bags together and make a gallon. And then this is what I drink all day. So, and also, yeah, everyone that made a I want to thank everybody for the condolences and messages I got on my video for my dad. I was very kind. I appreciate that. And yeah, it was a beautiful ceremony. They really they do a good job. I tear up thinking about it because it's very moving, you know? I mean, my dad passed away last year and it took a while to kind of get a spot there. But finally, we went the other day and, 21 gun salute and the band, the drummer and the bugle and the presentation is very, very moving. Like, I would challenge you not to cry, even if it's not like even your own father, right, or mother being buried there. Just going there and watching the ceremony is very touching. But to that end, yeah, it's definitely tea. I messed up my liver in college. But anyway, in that video, if you watch it, I was hand holding the whole time and I was shaking a lot. And it was like 95 degrees yesterday or that day in full sun, right? It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And, I kind of found out last minute, my mom calls like that morning of the funeral and says, Rob, why don't you take some pictures? I'm like, oh, okay. I was planning on taking pictures, but I wasn't planning to go full on, video and photos, right? But then I thought about it. I said, there's a lot of people that couldn't make it, so I should record the whole thing and so that, my family and friends that couldn't make it could watch the whole service. So I brought my EM1 Mark III and I put the 12 to 40. And I also put this 5-stop variable ND filter. And this is an awesome one, the K&F Concepts Slim Fader Nano X. You want to get the Nano X because they sell a lot of, K&F sells a lot of cheap stuff too, right? Their Nano X variable ND filters is the one to get. It's not too expensive, but it's not the cheap crap that they sell too. And my hand, because and you can hear me sniffling time to time in the video, but seriously, I was shaking like this while I was filming. You cannot tell at all. And I was doing a lot of walking too, right? So that's why when you're watching it, it's kind of, a little bit darting here and there. And the other thing was, I didn't know what was going to happen next, right? So I had to constantly turn around, like the firing squad is on this side, the chaplain's on this side, and then there's some soldiers doing stuff over there in the field. So I'm like quickly panning left and right, trying to figure out what's going on. And then when they finished the flag ceremony, and after they folded the flag up, all the soldiers started walking towards me, man, top speed, and I'm like running out of the way because I tried to get as close as I can. So, and then on top here, this is just that you've probably seen reviews of this mic. This is the Boya mic. No autofocus, but this is the Boya mic, and I just bought a fluffy thing for it for the wind. And I was standing about I'd say 8 to 10 meters, something in that range from the chaplain. So while I was filming to get the audio, I cranked up the audio on the touchscreen here while I was filming to maximum. And if you see the video, you're clearly able to hear what he's saying once I kind of got in the position. because this mic it's kind of a mini boom mic. It's about that long. And yes, I had IBIS on MIS 1, which is digital and digital and mechanical. I don't know what they call it, but it's both digital and sensor shift together. So the video, there was no shaking, even though my hands were shaking like this. You could not see that shaking. I recorded in Cinema 4K using OM Log 400. And I used the ND filter to try to bring the shutter speed down, you know, trying to get that 180 angle stuff. And I noticed that even at 5 stops, because I had the lens wide open at f2.8, I could only get the shutter down to about 1/20th of a second. So it was kind of, it wasn't a perfect 180 rule. In other words, it was a little bit off, but at least it wasn't like at 1/1000th of a second or something. Because if I didn't have the ND filter on, you know, it would have been 5 stops over 1/20th of a second, right? Which is like 1/1000th or something. But is Dead Cat PETA approved? Oh, hey, very good to have you here. Did you have IBIS on? Okay, I answered that one. And so anyway, if you watch that funeral or ceremony of my dad's thing, this is exactly what I used. Handheld the whole time. And there's some scenes, like I said, where it's kind of, you know, very amateurish, right? Because I'm actually, I had to walk fast sometimes to keep up. And you know, if I could have had a, you know, if it was like a paid thing for an event, I'd have brought my tripod and my video tripod and really taken care with, you know, the wobbly stuff. But it came out okay. It came out pretty good for just kind of a last minute thing. That was really my first event video that I've ever done. You know, other than videos like I make for the channel here, where I'm just, you know, talking head most of the time. Those are easy, right? But doing a live event video, especially when you don't know what's going to happen. Like, you know, if you watch the 21 gun salute, the first shot, you'll notice the camera jumps a little bit because it scared the crap out of me. But anyhow, I was really impressed with the image stabilization in this camera. There's no jerky moves, no jitter at all, even with my hand shaking. It was really, really amazing. And I did add some additional stabilization in post-processing only to keep the camera steady, because I recorded it in 4K. And, you know, sometimes I didn't want to see this part of the scene. Like, there's this scene where the carriage is being pulled away, you know, the horse carriage thing that was carrying the coffin. Underneath the carriage was tons of horse poop, right? So I used the image stabilization, the post-processing stabilization, to zoom in and stabilize just on the coffin instead of on all the horse poop on the ground. So there's parts of the video where I had to do things like that. Also, like where I zoomed in on the bugle, that was digital zoom in software, you know, in post-processing. But when I filmed an OM log, you can download the Olympus OM log to Rec 709 profile to convert it to like some normal colors. And then I just clicked auto. There's an auto button, like auto fix or something in DaVinci Resolve. I just clicked that, and the colors and the exposure and everything came out really, really good, I think. I dialed in a +1 exposure for a lot of the video because, you know, everybody's kind of standing under a tent, and right behind that tent is the open field in bright sunlight. So I wasn't able to recover the sky, the deep blue sky. It was really hazy anyway. But yeah, that was my experience doing video really for the first time. with the EM1 Mark III that wasn't like set up, you know, like I do here in my house, right? All right, let me see. If anybody asked any questions at this point and I didn't answer, just ask it again, because I'll never find it if I have to scroll up through the the thing here. So let me start here. Never had a problem with my pancake. Oh, pancake lens. I'm thinking pancakes for breakfast. Looks like there's a question right here. Do you feel the video in the EM1 Mark III is that much better than the EM1 II? Not the image quality, but the image stabilization is certainly better. It's a full stop better in image stabilization, which translated to it being twice as good. And it really is. There's definitely, I noticed it was much better. And that's for video. For photography, yeah, I can handhold a little bit longer using that, but when we're talking about just pure image quality, no difference. So that was John. And try cleaning the contacts on, oh wait. And what graduated ND filter would you recommend for daylight landscape photos? Brand and level of density. If a 5-stop doesn't do it, all right. So this is the 5-stop. This is a no autofocus. Okay, so I'm not going to use the webcam Olympus software anymore, because, you know, I used to be able to just hold this up and you could see it, right? Because it would focus. Well, I guess I could tap the focus button. There. This is the one I use. K&F Concepts variable ND filter, and you want to make sure it's the Nano X. This is the one to get, because you can see it's all, you know, that's pretty good. And then my 10-stop ND filter is also a K&F. Is also a K&F. I think it's right here. Let me see. This one is really good. This is a 10-stop. This is about a $30. I think that one is about $45. And this one is the K&F Nano X 10D ND10 10 stops. So let me see if I can focus on this. This one here. It's awesome, awesome little filter. So these are the two. I can't believe I found that right away. That won't happen twice, trust me. Because when I'm looking for it, I can never find it. Like when I want to go out and use it, and then like I want to show you guys something, and it's boom, it's right there. I don't get it. Let's see. Am I hungry? Yeah, I'm always hungry. I try to eat right before the stream. But on Sundays, sometimes I don't have, you know, sometimes I just wake up and turn the camera on and start streaming because it's in the morning and I get really hungry. Because sometimes it goes to 1 or 2 o'clock, you know. But this stream is like after lunchtime, so I make sure I eat before. Dave Nelson, graduated ND filter, not very. Oh, graduated ND filter. I'm sorry. I don't have any recommendations for that. I just bought a very cheap set of plastic graduated ND filters, and I think I paid like $29 for a whole set, right? As long as you don't scratch the plastic, they're fine, right? And but I haven't actually tested to see if it had any impact on image quality or anything like that. But generally, plastic is not as good as glass, right? But for just putzing around once in a while, a graduated ND filter is okay. I'm not a fan of graduated ND filters, mostly because a lot of times the tree lines are kind of intersecting with the horizon. So what I do instead of using graduated ND filters, I just bracket the shots and blend them in post-processing. I think the results are better. I know, what's his name, Nigel, or not Nigel. Who's that guy that's always doing landscape? He's always using graduated ND filters. So check his channel. He would be the one that would recommend a good one. God, what's his name? Somebody here knows who I'm talking about. I think he's in the UK, but he's always going around in his little van that he sleeps in, and he does landscape photos exclusively, and he uses those graduated ND filters. And he was shooting Canon for a long time, but he recently switched, I think, to Fuji. But I don't know what brand he uses, but I would use those if you're going to use any, because he takes awesome pictures. Let's see. Poitors is asking, I experienced a strange issue with my M10 Mark II. Remove the 40 to 150 and put the 14 to 42 pancake back. No picture, no aperture reading. Is it broken? Yes. If you turn the camera off and back on again and it's still not working, that pancake lens, and you try mounting it back on, yeah, that lens is gone. It's kind of a common, I wouldn't call it common, but it happens often enough that it's happened to me. It's happened to a few people that are in my forum, and I do read about it in other forums like Deep Review, where that lens fails. And I think it has something to do with how that power zoom goes in and out every time you turn the camera on and off. And there's little wires inside, or ribbon cables, that break loose inside. And there's just no fixing it economically. If it's under warranty, send it back. If it's not under warranty, you know, I switched over to the regular manual zoom kit lens because I didn't want to deal with that problem anymore. Because sometimes when you swap lenses while the camera's on, you know, I'll get a black screen. So I turn the camera off and back on and make sure it's mounted properly, that it's fully engaged and the locking pin clicks. But if that doesn't do the trick, then yeah, on that pancake lens in particular, the 14 to 42 power zoom, it's the 14 to 42 easy power zoom lens. Yeah, it's got that quirk in it. Like I said, it seems to be more and more common now. Any advice on settings for Milky Way shooting on the EM1? It really depends on the lens and okay, when you do astrophotography, and I'm not an expert in this, but the wider the lens, the longer you can keep the shutter open without getting star trails, right? Those little eggshell type stars. And for example, like you could shoot maybe 8mm, my 8mm fisheye, I can get about a 15-second exposure without getting any kind of eggshells. Did I say 15 minutes? I meant 15-second exposure without getting any kind of eggshells and nice crisp round stars. And then you have to see what ISO is going to give you a good exposure at that shutter speed. So it's kind of a balance between shutter speed and ISO. If you have a 17mm lens, you might get away with 15 seconds. But there's, you know, if you don't look too close, you can get away with it. But if you look close, you'll start to see little eggshells at 15 seconds, say on a 17mm. So in theory, 17mm would only let you do maybe an 8-second exposure. So you know, and then you just crank up the ISO to the point, you know, where that shutter speed works for that focal length. And I think there's some 500 rule. So you can kind of Google that, the 500 rule for astrophotography. There's also apps that you can get where you can put in the sensor size, the focal length, the aperture, and it'll give you the ISO, or it'll give you the shutter speed. There's apps that do that too. But I found it's easy enough to just experiment, just a couple of shots. You know, if you're only talking about 10 to 15 seconds per shot anyway, you know, just practice a little bit and see which ones you like. But I like to expose it so that the sky is just a little bit above black. And then for Milky Way shots, typically, depending on the light pollution, if there's a lot of light pollution, you're probably going to have to take about 20, 30 shots and stack them using some kind of stacking software. And even when there's no light pollution, if you have very black skies or dark skies, you still probably want to stack 10 or 15 images to get the most colors and you know, vibrance from those stars, because the stars are very, very dim. Especially the Milky Way stars, right? Because they're millions of light years away. So you have to do multiple exposures and then stack them to really get a good Milky Way exposure. Now, some people can get them in one shot or two shots with very fast lenses and high ISOs. They'll shoot at like ISO 3200 or 6400, and they'll shoot with very fast lenses, and they can get shots. Because if you're stacking the images, in theory, you know, stacking images also reduces the noise. So even though you're shooting at a high ISO, when you start stacking the images, that high ISO noise kind of gets negated. But the principles still apply, right? You want to shoot as low an ISO as possible with the fastest shutter speed you can, so that you don't get those star trails. So hopefully that helps a little bit. You know, those are just all kind of generalities. But when you go out and start to practice, and make sure you bring lots of spare batteries, because doing long exposures just drains the crap out of your batteries. It's kind of like doing video, right? The shutter's on a lot. And then also make sure you engage the black frame, which, what do they call it on Olympus? They call it a noise reduction, right? Not the noise filter, but noise reduction. Make sure that's turned on to help reduce some of the noise. And that way you'll get a lot of the beautiful colors that the Milky Way can show. You know, I've tried a few times myself to get some decent Milky Way shots, and but I haven't made a really you know, wholehearted effort at it. I've just gone out and you know, just said I'd try it, and I got a few shots, and they're okay, but not great. Thomas Heaton, thank you, Dave. Going back to the landscape guy, Thomas Heaton uses those graduated ND filters all the time. I don't know what he uses, but if you want to find somebody that uses ND filters and does a good job, that's the guy. Nigel Danson, I forget what he does. Nigel Danson, I can't remember names. My brain is just not there. And at all, also upon power up, the pancake dances with zoom several times, then stops with the wrong status. Doesn't make sense. No, it doesn't make sense to send it in, Piotr. That lens is gone. Other people have, you know, well, let me rephrase that. I've read in the forums by other people that contacted Olympus about this issue, and Olympus told them that it wasn't worth it. But you're hearing that third hand from me, right? Because I'm hearing it from a forum. I'm not the guy that tells you, but it makes sense because you can buy those lenses for about $130, $140 used all the time. And again, I would recommend get the 14 to 42 non-power zoom as a replacement. Piotr says, thank you so much. I had a similar issue with my macro 60. Sometimes it would not show a picture, but it's working. Okay. So I've answered your question twice now. Let's see. I see thumbs down. Who did this? Nobody leaves the room. Oh, let's see. I always blame Tony or Fro, you know, one of those guys. They always thumbs down. Fro would thumbs down any Micro Four Thirds channel, right? Although I love his channel. I love the Fro. You can also just take slightly traily pictures and stack them in post, and some software clears them up. Oh, really? I didn't know that. I always look for the free stuff online. I forget the one I'm using now. It was working well, but I can't remember it now because it's been a few months. Oh, Serge, you got you did some great images, Astro, right? What ISO were you at? You were like ISO 3200, I think. Let me scroll down, see where we're at. Photo Pills is awesome. It now has Olympus camera in. Okay, Photo Pills. Yes, people have talked about that before. Let's call it like it is. Olympus battery life sucks. Yes. Yeah, astrophotography is really hard on it. Usually when you have to go somewhere where there's nice dark skies, it's freaking cold too, right? So that doesn't help either. So yeah, bring lots of batteries because nothing, you know, nothing, especially don't use generic batteries when you're doing astro because you'll be halfway through an exposure and then the camera, you know, shuts off. It's really frustrating. Yeah, the Star Track. Yeah, Star Trackers are, you know, I've seen some for 300 bucks. Star Trackers are like you mount them on your tripod and they're motorized and you got to line them up using a little pointer to the North Star or something, and then they move the camera with, you know, and follow the stars, right? The only challenge with Star Trackers is you can't really have any foreground in your images because the foreground will get blurred. So you have to take a couple of images of the foreground to merge in so that they don't look all blurry, right, and weird, because they're gonna get stacked either this way or this way, but they're gonna get messed up. And if there's any wind at all, your foreground, like the trees and things, are gonna be messed up anyway. So always take shots of the foreground separate and blend them in Photoshop or whatever. But I saw a video by a guy, it's like an hour-and-a-half video or something of a guy that took some really good pictures without a star tracker. He just moved his camera manually, you know? Like he would take this long exposure, then move the camera a little bit, take another exposure, and he'd line it up in the camera himself. I suppose that works, right? You know, you don't have to buy a star tracker, just do it yourself manually. What would make that really easy is a nice gear head tripod that you can just rotate one gear and it just moves the camera just a little bit up, move it over to the right. You know, I use a gear head for my real estate photography. It would be perfect for like manually doing your own star tracking. So Levente Proska, thank you for that. Here in the light polluted skies, I use a 17 f1.8, 1 second ISO 5000. It's the only way I could actually see the comet. Wow. I just checked in. Have you addressed Robin Wong's situation? Yes. Just stay tuned to his channel. He's going to post an update. I think it's going to be good news that he's going to be able to continue making YouTube videos without buying a license and all that other jibber jabber. So just keep an eye on his channel for an update to that. I think it's going to be good news because, like I said, a couple hours after he posted that video, I did get in touch with him and things had changed since he posted that video. Oh, Serge, you got your 7. I saw that post in the forum. You got the 7.5 mil or 2.8. That should be interesting. You'll be able to do really long exposures with a 7.5 millimeter. I mean, easily 15 seconds, you know, because that's what I get with my 8 millimeter. And yeah, it's the same as the 7 Artist and 7.5. And that's the thing about a lot of things that you can buy online is usually it's just rebranded across several brands. So 7 Artisans, and then whatever this brand is, Rise Spray. Wow, what a weird name. Because back in the day when I was doing system building and things, I used to rebrand things. They call it white box laptops, white box PCs. I used to build white boxes for other companies, and they would put whatever brand they want on it. I mean, I wasn't a manufacturer, I wasn't at that level, but I was definitely building some white box systems. Is anyone here familiar with Schneider Xenon lenses? Just bought I have no idea. Sorry, Corna. And Corna says the colors on my M5 II with the 50mm f1.9 are unique looking and quite pleasing. Yeah. Yeah, these vintage lenses, they always have some interesting character sometimes, right? I mean, honestly, when people talk about, oh, this lens has really good character, basically the lens has defects in it that are causing it. Because today's lenses, right, they're all trying to make that perfect image, like no distortion, no chromatic aberration, no color problems, right? But back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, you know, they didn't have the kind of computer tech like they do now, nor the need for super high accurate lenses because they were just shooting film anyway. Not that they didn't try to make great lenses, it wasn't possible. So these lenses that have character are really just defective lenses. You want to look at it that way. Hello, Rob. Hello from New Orleans. I want to thank you again for your help. Oh, you're welcome. Transferring photos of work. Oh, that's right, John. You have a Mac, right? And you couldn't get your folder ended up being corrupted. I remember that. I knew it had to be something with that folder, but I just couldn't. You know, luckily we were able to keep pounding at it until the problem showed itself to us, right? Versus trying to figure out what the problem is, because we were doing everything right, but by systematically trying different things, you know, sometimes a problem reveals itself and we say, okay, here it is. Luckily it came up and showed itself, because that's not always the case, right? Wow. I'm just catching up here on the chat here. Stellarium Mobile, $10. Okay. Gosh, Dave, I would imagine Randy. I would imagine, Randy, you should be a really good astrophotographer because you're out there in the freaking desert. You know, from all the photos you submit to the photo editing session. You know, you say you're a daytime shooter, but you should go out at night if you haven't. But I imagine you've already got a good collection of astro shots. Oh, thank you, Serge. Serge was at 3200 for 15 seconds on a 17mm lens. If I remember correctly, noise wasn't that bad on that image. I mean, it's so dark, right? You don't see noise in the dark if it's dark. It's only when you try to raise the shadows that you see the noise. But with the astrophotography, you want the skies to be black and the stars to be white. So noise is not as big of an issue. Especially if you start stacking, then it's a non-issue. Is there multiple battery charger for Olympus batteries? Yes, Marcia. You can use any generic battery charger. I use a lot of generic battery chargers. I keep some in the car, I keep some in my bag, and then I keep several here at my desk. Because I like to charge 2-3 batteries at a time sometimes. So yeah. And that's why I have so many generic batteries, because I'm looking for an extra charger, and then for $5 more I can get a couple batteries. So I just said, okay, fine. Not that I really care about the batteries, I just wanted the charger. 8-Bit Ed says he bought the Move Shoot Move Star tracker. Align it with a green laser to the North Star. Yeah, that sounds about right. That's like a $300 one, right? And Randy used the Nikon DF with a 70-300 on the Comet. Wow, I think you'd need a faster lens though. That lens is like f4, f5, something like that. But of course the Nikon DF, right, is like the low light king. You could shoot it like ISO million and not get any noise. Is it possible to shoot? Okay, the only hope you have of shooting, old players, is it possible to shoot the Milky Way in a high light polluted area? The only hope of doing it, and I'm just, you know, it's not something I've ever tried. It's just something I've read about because I'm in a light polluted area, is you get a light pollution filter that you buy separately, and then start stacking images, you know, and with a lot of processing. Because I saw a guy use a light pollution filter and then did a ton of post-processing, you know, in Lightroom, and he got a decent result. But you know, it's just too hard. You know what I mean? If you can't get to an area where there's no light pollution, don't waste your time, honestly. You can try just for fun, but don't start spending money on noise light pollution filters, because they're not cheap. If I recall, they're like $100, right? If you want to get a good one, maybe $200. It's not worth it. You know, just wait until you can get to a dark sky. Because even with the noise pollution filter, you know, you're still not going to get good results. So I don't think it'd be money well spent, or time well spent for that matter, to try to get the Milky Way in a very light polluted area. Although it can be done, you know, like trying to light a match on the beach, it can be done, but it's so freaking hard, you know. Don't it's I don't know if it's really it just you'll quit photography if you have to do things like, if you try to do things that are so hard all the time. You know, it's like I see these videos about like how to get a black background on a white wall, and I'm like, why, what's wrong with you, you know? why are you trying to make photography so hard? Yeah, you can get a black background even if you're shooting on a white wall, but come on. I mean, I guess it's a good academic exercise to learn situations that aren't so dramatic. I don't know why it's just frustrating me. I shouldn't say anything bad about it, because actually it's legitimate techniques everywhere, right? That you can do to overcome challenges in photography. I'm just lazy. I'm like, if it's that hard to do something like that all the time, it's like I would never get into photography, you know? Or I would have quit a long time ago, because I'd be like, this is too hard. I almost get through 2 Ollie batteries on the M1 Mark II on a 7 to 8 mile 4-hour photo walks. Wow, Bob, that's not very much. You know, you might want to think about using quick sleep mode. You could probably get through the whole walk on 1 battery if you do that. And it was so painful to watch Robin's video. Yeah, Marsha, it was painful. But like I said, I think he's going to be okay. Keep an eye on his channel. Ah, you got grips for your cameras. Yeah, I mean, Randy's all in, right? I think he's the M1X with grips. You know, well, they come with grips, but yeah, Randy's pretty hardcore into gear, man. He's got the dream kit, like the fantasy kit everybody would want. Oh, thank you, Thomas, about Robin and my dad's funeral. Watson battery chargers, yep. They're a little expensive though. I just buy generic ones for $12. Oh, last night was the first serious effort. Okay. Does anyone have experience with the BLS 50 batteries, the Patona? Yeah, Levante, I only buy the aftermarket batteries when they come with the charger because I want the charger. It doesn't matter the brand. I mean, with the exception of Watson, right? WATSON, I think. All the generic batteries are crap, regardless of what they say their ratings are. And there's really two major problems with generic batteries. One is there's three problems, and I use them all the time, but just be aware of these three things. One is they don't have a real temperature sensor pin, because if you look at a battery, this is my battery box. I might even have the one you're talking about. I don't know what brand this is. But you see all these pins on the battery, right? This whole row of pins. One of these is like a temperature sensor. Generic batteries don't have a real temperature sensor, so what they do is they put a 0 value for temperature, telling the camera that the battery is not overheating, that the battery is operating within normal temperature. So that's a problem in the sense that particularly if you're charging a battery in the camera, you'll never, because once the battery starts to get hot, the camera will either shut down or, you know what I mean? It'll accommodate for that extra heat that the battery's having problems with. And yeah, so that's, and when but the biggest problem with the battery overheating is that it starts to swell, right? And then some people get their battery stuck in the camera. And that's happened to me where the battery starts to get a little bit tight. I chuck the battery. It's gone. The other problem besides the temperature sensor not being right is, the life of the battery, right? They don't last. They last about half as long. And I've done testing of 2 or 3 different generic batteries, including Wasabi. And they typically have only 700 or 800 milliamps of total power in them, versus the Olympus originals are like 1100, right? 1200. So you're getting 50% less power right off the bat. In addition to that is when they start to go low, you get very little warning. As soon as you get that red blinky on your screen about the battery life on a generic, it can go within a few clicks. Whereas like an original battery, once you get that red warning, sometimes you can go like another 2-3 dozen clicks before it actually dies on you. But generic batteries, they will die on you instantly. And then when you put them back in your camera, like when you first turn them on, it'll show full charge, and then it'll go red like within a few minutes. So somehow the chemistry in the battery is just wonky. I don't know how to explain it. That it shows full charge and it goes almost empty. So you have to actually fully charge the battery again, then it'll last. But like this is a generic that I use, and I number them all, with so I number 1 and 2 are always my originals, and anything higher than that are generally the generics. Like I said, you can buy generics, but as soon as they start to swell a little bit, you got to chuck them. There's risk of them exploding and leaking and all kinds of problems. Let's see. Had star movement, but the comet was fuzzy. Okay, Randy's filling me in on his comet shot. Piotr is asking one more question. Have you ever looked into those Chinese thingies, dummy batteries? I've never bought one. I've looked at them. People seem to be doing okay with those. You have to be careful though, because the dummy batteries sometimes don't have the are just a shell with a couple of wires, right? So you have to make sure you supply the correct voltage to the dummy battery. So if you connect like, you know, a standard USB power brick, it's only 5 volts and it's not going to be enough to power the camera. So there has to be some sort of, you have to find a power brick that has an exact like 7.2 volt or 8 volt, whatever it is. So do a little you know, I haven't bought one, so I can't tell you. So you need to do a little research and make sure that the dummy battery, what kind of tip it has. You know, a lot of them just have the regular, you know, female pins on them that plug into any kind of generic power bank. But the power bank has to be the correct voltage and amperage output to power the camera. It's not an area I'm not an expert in, but when I looked into it, those were the things I was considering, was the kind of power brick voltage, and then the kind of make sure that the pin, the female pin or jack fits that power brick. And I've seen where they sell the whole kit, where you can buy the dummy battery and the voltage inverter. The voltage inverter connects to any 5 volt USB power brick, so it converts that 5 volts to 8 volts before it goes to the dummy battery. So there's some inefficiencies there, but I've seen those, and those kits are like $150 for the whole thing, something like that. So if you're into really long exposures, it might be a worthwhile investment to buy a ready-made kit. Or if you can, if you do your due diligence, you may be able to find like a $5 dummy battery on Alibaba, find like a $20 power brick that has the right voltage and make that work. But it's not something I've really gotten into because I don't do long exposures myself. But those are the things you need to watch out for. Let me do this. I'm in the middle of Double E in Southwest. I don't know what EE and SW engineering is. Electrical engineering and something else, right? Software. So yeah, you should be pretty competent in looking at the voltages and things, right? You know, because the female pins have certain sizes, like 2.5 millimeter diameter with 1 millimeter center, something like that. There's all kinds of specs they give when they sell those things usually. But I've seen complete kits set up, but they didn't have them for the EM10 or the EM5 Mark II. They didn't have a BLS50 version. They had the Pen F version. Anyway, like I said, I didn't look into it enough myself. Software engineering, thank you. Rear command dial on my new EM1 sometimes skips. Is this going to get much worse? Google says it's widespread issue. Oh, Nikon Mike, I'm sorry, that hasn't happened to me. And this is the first I've heard of it personally. That Yeah, sorry, I can't give you any any feedback on that one. Does anyone else have a problem with their rear command dial on their EM1? I don't know. Let Nikon Mike know if it's gotten worse or you've never had a problem. Problem with a new EM5 MK3 on a 14-150, when on shutter priority, the camera shuts down the lens to f22. It's not the camera. This has come up on other Olympus cameras I've owned. Any thoughts? No, that's never happened to me either, Rob. Rob FJ, I'm sorry. That's not one that's ever happened to me. Where's my 14-150? Let me make a note though. I don't know where my 14-150 is right now. Dang it. It's not a mode that I normally shoot in, so EM5 Mark III with the 14-150 and shutter priority. Lens goes to f22 and Rob FJ. I got my EM5 right here. Oh, there's the lens. So he's saying new EM5 Mark III, shutter priority. So Rob, is it when you take a picture? Let me try something. Well, that didn't work. No. I'll try it. I'll try it and see if I can duplicate it. So let me know what other settings you're using that's happening. Piotr says, this dummy battery question was in relation to your video about turning the M5 Mark II into a streaming camera for online use. The problem would be battery life, not good for long meetings. True. Yes. Yeah, you can get an hour, hour and a half. That's about it. Rob FJ, your shutter speed is too slow or the ISO is too high. Yeah, those are good questions, Rob. The problem goes away if I turn the camera off and on again. I know, right? Always, right? That's the answer to every problem ever in Windows. turn it off and on again, but on the camera, I can't explain it. Rob Trek, did you ever use a OM original? Yes, I love my 50mm f1.8 and my 24mm f2.8. Two excellent lenses. I want to add the 135 f3.5, I think it is. And Lysippus says he's used the S5, S50 as a backup battery with no problems. The BLS 50 for 29. Okay. Let's see. Rob FJ, so it changes the aperture by itself. Sorry, Rob. Should have said aperture priority, so shutter is variable. Oh, no, that's never happened to me. So basically, you're an aperture priority. What screen did I use? This one? I just realized there was no sound the last time I went to this screen. All right, so aperture priority, and take a picture. I don't know, I can't duplicate the problem. It's never happened to me. I'm sorry, Rob. Off center focus point. No mic, I'm sorry. I've just tried EM5 340 to 150 on shutter priority, no problems. Yeah, he was saying it was an aperture priority though. Rob Trek, I need the astro focus for the X. I'm not allowed to get the EM13. Okay. I can't help you there. Nikon Mike, yes, rear dial failure was very common complaint of the early EM1 Mark 1. They could not fix mine under warranty after 3 tries, so they replaced with the refurb unit, which has been fine. Oh, okay. If rebooting fixes it, maybe you should take it in for warranty. Maybe. Rob FJ says it may have been a while. I was using exposure bracketing. Okay. Let's see. And we're done. So I need to start my next live stream where I do the photo editing. So if there's no other questions, gosh, thanks everybody for coming in today. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna start at 4:30ish my live editing where you can submit your photos or you can download my photo and edit it, and we kind of just go through that. Trying to see if there's any other questions. I think I got them all, hopefully. But awesome session today, guys. I really appreciate it, and thanks again for all the kind words on the on my dad's ceremony. And let's keep an eye out on Robin Wong's channel, and also remember Jimmy Chang just lost his father as well, so send him a little love, you know, and prayers and stuff to his channel if you can. You know, that's one thing about life is, you know, we're all going to experience, you know, very, very sad moments in our lives that we have no control over, but they're going to happen. And the best we can do is help, you know, support each other best we can, and be the best who we can be as well, right? To be strong, to have that strength for others. I don't know, I'm starting to sound kind of silly now, but thanks again everybody for coming in. But I do mean that. Send some thanks everybody for all your support and kind words.